Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Hey there, happy Wednesday, and thank you so much for joining us with Coping with Tre Tailor. I'm Tre Tailor, and today we're coping with voting rights. That's right. You thought we were through with that, didn't you? Well, don't let the 14th or 15th Amendment make you comfortable, because even today in 2022, our voting rights are at risk. Why and what can we do about it? Well, attorney Janice Mathis joins us from the National Council of Negro Women. She's the executive director. Thank you, attorney Mathis, so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for the invitation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We look forward to a great conversation with you. That and more coming up next on Coping with Tre Tailor. But first, a couple of COVID community updates. Listen, if you're interested in getting into law enforcement, a big job fair is going on in Columbia, South Carolina tomorrow. Over 20 agencies will be represented at Dutch Square Mall from 10 until 2 p.m. Stop by and check it out. And 11 days before Valentine's Day, and a new survey says if you're looking for love, Cali is the place to be, followed by New York. Someone needs to tell all of my single friends that I grew up with that. Also, Florida and Texas. Now, the worst place to be if you're single, West Virginia, Arkansas, North Dakota, and right here where I'm living in South Carolina. Oh, well, I don't think I'm moving to Cali, though. Hey, don't forget that SCDHEC has your most up-to-date list of times, dates, and locations for COVID testing, flu shots, and COVID vaccinations in and around South Carolina. Visit scdheck.gov for more information. Also, COVID vaccinations are being held at the Columbia Mall. The testing clinic is open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you're a veteran, COVID vaccinations are being held at the VA. Contact them for more details. Several retail locations are also offering COVID vaccinations in and around South Carolina. Kroger pharmacies, CVS, Walgreens is actually not only offering COVID vaccinations, they're giving away free N95 masks. Brooklyn Baptist Church in West Columbia is also doing COVID vaccinations. Their clinic is open 7 days a week. And then if you are having a challenge getting to your COVID vaccination, you can catch the Comet. Don't miss your shot. You can catch the Comet for a free ride to get your vaccination. That is in Columbia, South Carolina. As a matter of fact, the Comet bus station on the corner of Sumter and Laurel Street, that main location, is also offering COVID vaccination clinic. Now, if you are having a challenge, even making your COVID vaccination appointment, where a lot of places now are just walk up, online registration help is available at Get Set Up. Several financial resources are also available if you lost someone due to COVID. FEMA is giving COVID funeral-related expenses reimbursement. You can see the information there on the screen. SC Bar Association and SC Legal Services has a toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. Lexington County in South Carolina has a county bill assistance program. SC Housing and Dominion Energy has a rental and utilities assistance program. SC Housing Frontline Workers Home Buying Program, and SC Hope's 24-hour assistance line from the South Carolina Department of Mental Health. It's Heart Health Month, and we told you yesterday, and we're going to talk with some folks from Prisma Health next week. Well, they're going to have a series of webinars all month long. You can see that information on the screen, and you can log on to the prismahealth.org/Heart Health Month website for more information. I'm Tre Tailor, and you're watching Coping with Tre Tailor, and today we're coping with voting rights. The National Council of Negro Women Executive Director, Attorney Janice Mathis, will join us coming up in just a short. But first, don't forget, we are streaming live. That's right. We're streaming live on Facebook. Please go to the Tailor Made Production page on Facebook and hit like and share and follow. Not only will you be able to watch Coping with COVID Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but also First Monday with comedian George Wallace. Fun Day Monday. We look forward to seeing George on Monday. Also, we're streaming live on the YouTube page. Now, listen, go over there and hit the subscribe button. Not only will you be able to check us out live, you can also watch any previous episodes of Coping with COVID. That's on the YouTube page. We also have a presence on Instagram. Coming up next, we are coping with your voting rights. We're going to talk to Attorney Janice Mathis, the Executive Director with the National Council of Negro Women, and that's coming up next on Coping. I'm Tre Tailor.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Aiken-Cochran. As Miss America, I know that taking care of yourself is important. Part of taking care of your health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is serious and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. 90% of South Carolinians who have it don't know they have it. Visit inittogethersc.org. Take an online test to find out your risk and join a diabetes prevention program. Brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday lives, but when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
The Comet gives me a reliable source of transportation.
It's very convenient to me, and they have wonderful drivers.
It's clean, and it builds community. It's fun to meet people.
It makes me feel like really independent. It's just fun.
It's always going to be there, and it gets me everywhere I need to go.
We try to ride every single day. Comedy is our livelihood.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Tre Tailor, and you are watching Coping with Tre Tailor. And today we're coping with our voting rights. Hey, don't forget to hit post, share, like, and follow so we can get the message to the masses. We are streaming live on Facebook on the Tailor Made Productions page, also on YouTube, and also we have a presence on Instagram. So please join us, post, and share. Now, also want to remind you that scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you'll see all of the public service announcement and the resources that I mentioned before the break. COVID testing, also financial information, job listings, and more, not only in South Carolina, but across our country. So please don't forget to check out the scroll at the bottom of the screen. You heard correctly. Right now, in 2022, our voting rights are at Jeopardy. Attorney Janice Mathis, I just made her a doctor. Attorney Janice Mathis, Executive Director with the National Council of Negro Women, joins us now to talk about that. Attorney Mathis, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. So listen, let me ask you, I just have to ask you, what happened to the 14th and 15th Amendment? Did it run out? Is there an expiration date on it?
No, the 14th and 15th Amendment remain alive and well. What happened was Shelby v. Holder. In 2013, a lawsuit was decided by the United States Supreme Court, and they determined that the Voting Rights Act, which went a long way to guarantee that we had the right to vote, actually implemented, was devastated by that decision. They decided that because we had elected a Black president, that there are numerous Black elected officials all over the country, including in South Carolina, that we no longer needed the extraordinary protections of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. Section 5 gave us the opportunity to object to the United States Department of Justice if there was any change in voting procedures that we felt would impinge on our voting rights. So you didn't necessarily have to take the time to file a lawsuit, find a lawyer, go through that process, which we all know can be very cumbersome, time consuming, and expensive.
Mm-hmm.
When that went away, it left us defenseless, so to speak. And that's when you started to see all these laws being enacted by states to say, well, if we don't have to get pre-clearance under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act from the United States Department of Justice, we can make it harder to register. We can make it harder to get an absentee ballot. We can make it harder to have a drop box. All these conveniences that we had begun to get used to started to slowly but surely disappear.
Right.
That trend was accelerated after the 2020 presidential election.
Yeah.
Because a combination of disinformation, misinformation led a large number of people to believe that there was something wrong and something nefarious about the 2020 election. Courts all over this country, federal courts from East Coast to West Coast, determined there were some minor discrepancies, but nothing that would have changed the outcome of the election. It's very important. You can't just say voter fraud, stop the steal.
Right.
You have to be able to prove that there was significant voter fraud, significant violation of practices and principles. No court in the United States has issued that ruling. So while we have no problem with voter fraud that has been documented or verified by a court, the political machinations started. And people said, well, we'll do away with, in Georgia, they made it illegal to give somebody water in the line to vote.
Right.
We're dealing with the county now in Georgia. Now, Georgia's at the eye of the storm because Georgia elected 2 Democratic senators for the first time in many, many years, in decades. And it made certain people afraid. And so that is really what caused the clampdown on voting rights. 14th and 15th Amendments remain valid and operable. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act still allows lawsuits to be filed, but that process is time consuming, labor intensive, and very expensive.
So what needs to happen? And thank you, first of all, for breaking it down. Because listen, I think lay people, just regular old folks, even just like me, can't understand, well, why are we talking about this now? I think obviously, Attorney Mathis, we recognize and hear and see that something's happening and our rights, so to speak, are being challenged, and people are making it more difficult. But I don't know that people know exactly what's happening and why.
One of the reasons why is that the country is changing. I live in Maryland, which is a so-called blue state, but right next door is Virginia. And Virginia was once a solidly Republican state. But over the past few election cycles, now we see that Virginia is purple, trending toward blue. As the country gets younger, more progressive, more urban, you're going to see more and more jurisdictions have these problems. So then there was Virginia, and then North Carolina elected a Democratic governor, and then of all places, Georgia, part of the solid red South. And so some of that is political insecurity that is driving people to say, well, what really should happen is that if you want my vote and you're a conservative candidate, offer me policy solutions that address what I care about.
Yeah.
Fight fairly. If you want the votes, you can get the votes. There are Black folk and Democrats who believe that we ought to have balanced budgets, for example, or they oppose immigration, or they oppose reproductive choice. Offer those policy prescriptions. Don't try to, it's like shaving points.
Yeah.
Your team is not quite as good as the other team. Your team is not quite as experienced as the other team. So if we can keep a few people home, then we have a better chance of winning. It's cynical, but
Yeah.
that is exactly what's going on.
Well, you make such a good point to say, well, why go look, why go low? Why go there? Why isn't it that because here's the thing, obviously you recognize my vote is important, or you wouldn't try so hard to suppress my vote. So then why not try to win my vote ethically? Is it too
Earlier
simple?
this morning, I interviewed Congressman Timmons from Greenville, which is my hometown in South Carolina.
Oh,
And
okay.
I asked him some of those questions. I said, why are you focused so much on this making it harder to vote? Why
Yeah.
not make your platform more appealing? You may not recall, because this is a detail that only nerds who follow this up, but the GOP did not have a platform in the 2020 election. They did not offer policies. Usually the party will lay out, this is what we're going to do if we win. We're going to have a child tax credit. We're going to do Build Back Better. We're going to address climate change. There was no GOP platform. And so you get this recalcitrant sort of, well, we'll just win by any means necessary. And we allow somebody to set the tone for the party.
Yeah.
Who is not
somebody
careful with the truth. So if you're willing to use disinformation and misinformation and mislead people, I asked this congressman this morning, where are the voices of responsible Republicans saying that the election in 2020 really did result in Joe Biden's victory? This young man who's only 37 years old, only been in Congress since 2019, said, well, yeah, you're right. I know that Biden won. But see, there are lots of people who don't believe it. I said, well, as a leader, as an elected official, isn't it part of your responsibility to explain what really happened and not just rely on what people saw on Twitter or Facebook or at a rally? Why not share the truth as you know it to be?
Right.
Well, if people think I'm a moderate, I can't get elected.
Wow.
So that is perverse. The other issue that we've not paid, there are a lot of issues, but one of them is redistricting.
Yeah.
Every 10 years we get a census. Every congressional district in this country and all of our state legislative districts have to be balanced to make sure that the people are being represented. One person, one vote. If you think that one person, one vote diminishes your chance of winning, and you control the legislature, because the redistricting is not done in Washington, it's done in Columbia, it's done in Atlanta, it's done in Tallahassee, then you're tempted to shape the districts in ways that enhance your chances of winning.
Yeah.
And that is happening all over the country.
Yeah.
The other thing that's going on is money. There was a Supreme Court case not too long ago, Citizens United. You may be familiar with it. And it allowed unlimited amounts of money to be put into campaigns.
Yeah.
Lobbyists have a lot of influence. Remember, members of Congress get elected every 2 years. As soon as they get elected, it's time to start raising money to campaign for the next election.
Yeah.
That influence of money. You look at somebody like Mr. Manchin from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Mr. Manchin's business, not his business in the Senate, his business that he earns his living from is a coal consulting company. He has a powerful financial incentive to protect that industry because he's protecting his own income and he's protecting his donors. So money, redistricting, and then this demographic shift that we're facing are some of the reasons that we're having the trouble that we're having. Now, what should we do about it?
Yeah.
We got to scream bloody murder.
Yeah. And let me just jump in here for a second. Yeah, because you're right. I wanted to mention one thing about the redistricting, because I know we are dealing with that here in South Carolina. Senator John Scott was on the show a couple of weeks ago talking about just that. One, the redistricting, how people are just, again, these are things that as citizens, we are not really informed about or even take the time to know what's happened until it happens, and then it affects us. So we are definitely dealing with that, and trying to inform people, particularly on this show. We're talking to attorney Janice Mathis. She is executive director of the National Council of Negro Women. You're watching Coping with Tre Tailor, and today we're coping with voting rights. Attorney Mathis just broke down all of the information as to why our voting rights are at risk, and she was getting ready to go exactly where I wanted to go. What can we do?
You have to be vocal. Those redistricting committees, those meetings are open to the public. We have to attend those meetings. We have to stay abreast, reading newspapers, reading high quality magazines. Don't over rely on what you read on the internet, unless it's CNN, NBC,
reputable sources.
Reputable, credible sources of information. That's the first thing. It's important for you to know who your representatives are.
Absolutely.
And be in touch with. But you know what's more important? It's more important for them to know who you are. Mm-hmm. And the only way they get to know who you are is if you engage with them. When they come home for recess and they have a town hall meeting, or they go out in the district and campaign and meet, but be there. Know where their district offices are. Get to know the staff people so that they can know that you're watching. The light of day is the best disinfectant for politics. The other thing is there is particular legislation that did not pass, unfortunately, in the Congress. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. The Freedom to Vote Act, which was actually written by Senator Manchin from West Virginia.
Wow.
He wrote that legislation and said, I can get you 10 Republican votes for the Freedom to Vote Act. He came back a few weeks later, could not get a single Republican to go along. So it's very hyper partisan. And unfortunately, the influence that the prior president has over some of these legislators is unfortunate and overbearing. Some of them
it's unbelievable to me. It's even unbelievable to me that this man, who is out of politics and supposedly, who knows if he's going to run again? Who knows if he's going to be able to run again? I mean, where are we in the impeachment process? But that's or in the insurrection process, and holding him responsible for some of that. But it is so interesting to me, the whole look. It's almost like he's got something on everybody. They're just so beholding to him.
What he's got is that very vocal minority of followers. And I will tell you something, we all bear some responsibility for it. That's hard to say. It's hard for me to accept. But there are parts of this country that are rural, poor and undereducated and white. And they've been sold a bill. Your problem is all these black folk getting elected. Your problem is a black president. A black vice president, when the real problem is, take a state like Mississippi. I just happen to be looking at these statistics. For every dollar that Mississippi sends in federal tax to Washington, they get back $3 in federal aid.
Wow.
Mississippi is a debtor state. That is true of Arkansas. It's true of Alabama. It's true, and I haven't checked South Carolina, so I can't say about South Carolina for sure. But you've got politicians who are not doing an adequate job of addressing their people's real needs.
Yeah.
Older people in West Virginia have the worst teeth in the nation. The Mississippi congressman, senator was complaining about, affirmative action, and you're going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court and blah, 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 blah. When are you going to do something to get Mississippi voters off the bottom of all these lists in healthcare, education, jobs, poverty, gender disparities in pay? Mm-hmm. When are you going to help them deal with their real problems instead of diverting their attention to what we would call a red herring? It's the black people that's causing. No, it's not those black people. There are more poor white people in this country than there are black.
Absolutely.
And that's just scapegoating. That's gaslighting. And what is it going to take? It's going to take us continuing to organize, organize, organize. In Georgia, Stacey Abrams, Helen Butler, Black Voters Matter, and a host of activists, including members of NCNW, went door to door registering people to vote and talking to them about what the issues are. January the 5th was the day before the insurrection. If the insurrection had not happened on January the 6th, we would have been talking about Warnock and Ossoff getting elected in Georgia.
Right.
January the 6th knocked that story, you know, in the media.
Yeah.
The one story that drives the narrative.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
And instead of celebrating January the 5th, we were left to cope with the devastation of January the 6th.
Yeah.
So we just, I would say to people, don't be discouraged. My own mother voted in 1948. She had just graduated from North Carolina A&T. She came home and helped her parents buy a house, and she went down to register to vote because in Greenville in 1948, for the first time since 1876, Black people were free to register and vote without a literacy test, without a loyalty oath. It was so rare, 72 years of not voting, that her picture was put in the paper.
Oh, wow.
And that's really how my sister and I became activists, because we heard those stories.
Yeah.
We've been here before. We know how to get out of this. We've got to make sure that we elect people like Jim Clyburn, who will stand up for us, and other members of Congress. Make sure that we're represented. Let them know that you care. You don't have to be an expert in voting rights. You don't have to be an expert in economic policy. All they need to know is that you're watching them and you care and you want the situation addressed.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking to Attorney Janice Mathis with the National Council of Negro Women today on coping. We are coping with our voters' rights. And she, again, just so eloquently just shared with us what's going on and what we need to do. So as far as organizations, Attorney Mathis, that maybe we should support or join or work with to to let our voice be heard. Because here's the thing, I get you, and you're right. We all need to be more active and more vocal. Go to our state house, talk to our legislators, the people that we put in position, the people that we put in these positions. But oftentimes, people feel like they're more comfortable with another organization. There's obviously there's strength in numbers. What are some of the organizations other than the National Council of Negro Women? And is that an organization that people not only here in South Carolina, but everywhere can support and help move the needle forward?
You may know that National Council of Negro Women was started by Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune,
Yes.
Bethune-Cookman University founder. She was also the founder of the United Negro College Fund. She was founder of the American Association for the Study of African American Life and History, ASALH. That organization has a strong base in South Carolina. We've got chapters all over South Carolina. We call them sections. Willis Williams, right there in Columbia, is our South Carolina president. So that's my commercial for NCNW. But NAACP does a great job with voter empowerment.
Yes.
SCLC is still active. Black Voters Matter. If you prefer Black Voters Matter Fund, there's Higher Heights PAC that raises money for Black and women candidates. Mm-hmm. There's a plethora of organizations. It doesn't matter which one.
Right.
There are 8 organizations that meet regularly together in Washington. I represent NCNW. Derek Johnson is there from the NAACP. Mark Morial is there from the National Urban League. Melanie Campbell is there from the Black Women's Roundtable. The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. The Leadership Council is there. National Action Network is there. Any or all of them.
Yeah.
Choose one. And then there are many churches. I saw the commercial for Brookland.
Yeah.
And from my days with Reverend Jackson, I know what a good job Brooklyn does with civic engagement and voter empowerment. Yeah. You may be able to start a social justice effort inside your church, if that's your preference. The sororities and the fraternities do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I happen to be a Delta, but the AKAs and the Zetas all do voter engagement work. And if you don't see one that you like, start one.
Yeah, I hear you.
Gather your friends. A lot of young folks say, "Oh, them old folk, all they want to talk about is voting." I'm tired of that. There's another aspect to this, and that is your publicly traded corporation. Coca-Cola cares what we think.
Yeah.
Because we drink most drinks with sugar, even though we shouldn't, because we tend to be diabetic.
That's right. That's right.
But we are their audience. Home
Yeah.
Depot cares what we think. Duke Energy cares what we think. Fluor cares what we think up in Greenville. BMW cares what we think because we love those cars.
Yeah.
There are ways through the NAACP, through National Action Network, Rainbow Push Coalition, to put pressure on corporate America because they hire the lobbyists. The lobbyists control the politicians.
Yeah.
If you can't get to the politicians, get to the people who are funding them.
Yeah. We're talking to Attorney Janice Mathis with the National Council of Negro Women. She is the executive director today. We're coping with voting rights. Don't forget to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. Want to remind you, too, that all of the information scrolling at the bottom of the screen, great information about COVID testing, COVID vaccinations, financial information, and so much more. Please post and share and check out the information. Attorney Mathis, before you leave, we do have a question. Mitchell Peace Joy Jen, thank you so much for joining us. She wants to know, how can ladies become a member of the National Council of Negro Women? Thank you, Mitchell.
What a great question. www.ncnw.org. I am at Mathis NCNW on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn. If you simply type into your search engine NCNW, you will get a whole host of information about our organization. But the best place is www.ncnw.org. And it says, find a section. You can put in your zip code. It'll show you the sections that are near you. Dues are a whopping $50 a year.
All right, Mitchell, thank you for your question. Thank you for your answer. And I think the information is on the screen. If people want more information about the National Council of Negro Women, you can see it on the screen again, www.ncnw.org. As Attorney Mathis said, put in your zip code and you will see and find the chapter that is closest to you. Yeah. All right. In closing, Attorney Mathis, anything else you would like to share with us concerning what we need to know and what we need to kind of keep our eyes open for concerning our voting rights and advocating for them?
There is an effort to restore the power of the Voting Rights Act. We need Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act restored so that when changes to voting processes are made, they get cleared by the Justice Department in Washington first. Mm-hmm. If you care about that, you can let your legislators know. There will be legislation that will be introduced to restore the Voting Rights Act. That is the simplest, easy thing. I think we need the Voting Rights Act restored.
Right.
And you notice this is being fought out in states like Michigan, in states like Texas, in Georgia, in Virginia. Why? In Arizona? Because those are swing states. Because of the Electoral College, we don't elect a president from 50 states.
Right.
We elect a president from about 10 states where there's close competition.
Yeah.
If you live or have friends in one of those states, be on the lookout for restoration of the Voting Rights Act.
Wow. Wow. And, I'm glad you brought up Section 5 again, because when you were talking about it earlier, I meant to ask you, how is it that something like that could have been taken away? I mean, is it that easy for sections of our Constitution and other documents that are the foundation of America? Is it that easy for them to be taken away and put back on?
Do you remember when Barack Obama was president, he had the opportunity to nominate someone to the Supreme Court,
Yes.
and Mitch McConnell refused to
Yes.
give that person a hearing. Judges don't come to the court neutral. Just like all of us, judges come to the Supreme Court with their opinions, their biases, their life experiences. That's how it happens. Right now, we've got a 6-3 majority of very, very conservative justices. And so that's how it happens. But it can be reversed. You know what they said? You black folk are doing such a good job. Y'all voting at the same rates as white people. Y'all don't need any extra help anymore. That was back in the 60s and the 70s. And you're so organized now and you're so effective now that you don't need this special help. That's no longer fair to the states who are subject to Section 5. They don't deserve to be supervised because everything is okay now.
Who is this they? Who is this they we speak of?
Well, we're
Who is that?
And we have made strides, but American history has always been a pendulum that swings. And if you remember Charlottesville, what were those guys saying in Charlottesville? You will not replace me.
Right.
Replace you where? You own all the banks, you got all the money. Where are you talking about being replaced? Being replaced in the legislatures. And in some cases, being replaced in their homes.
Yeah.
Because younger folk are much more willing to be multicultural.
Yes.
They accept gay, lesbian. They don't make big differences about color. If you have relied on your color, your whiteness, your conservatism, your white superiority, dare I say your racism, to keep you in office, as that dissipates, you start to feel insecure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm afraid that we're going to be going through this for a little while.
Wow. Wow. So buckle your seatbelt, huh? Buckle your seatbelt.
It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, yeah. Buckle your seatbelt and get active and stay informed. Stay woke, as they say. I mean,
and you know what else? Study your history.
Yeah.
Jim Clyburn is who he is today because he raised teetotal hell when he was a student at South Carolina State.
South Carolina State, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He didn't just become this, this great statesman. He was shaking things up.
Yeah.
I'm terribly concerned about and I know I'm running over time, but
I'm
terribly concerned about the attack on HBCUs.
Yes, yes, yes.
If I was an HBCU student, if I was at South Carolina State or at Howard or at any of these North Carolina,
Hampton, Benedict, Aggie, if where your mom went to school. Yeah.
I would be asking the question, and I wrote an op-ed yesterday that I hope to get published about how awful it is. You don't like affirmative action, and now you want to threaten HBCUs. Are you saying that Black folk don't need education?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. or again, I mean, Danielle Lake, thank you for watching. She said this is very informative. Thank you so much for watching.
Danielle.
Yeah, I mean, But it just boggles my mind because no, they're not saying we don't need an education. It's fear. I think this is all based on fear. Just like I said earlier, you must need us because you feel so threatened. You want to tear us down at every turn. Our students, our voters. Look. You're staying in the tanning place trying to look like us. You're listening to our music. You're wearing our clothes, but you want to kill us. I mean,
for a lot of you, the grandchildren look more like us than like them.
Look, I got two right now.
And that, you know what Lincoln said, can a nation so conceived and so dedicated long endure? We're still trying to answer that question.
Yeah.
Can a nation, we're not based on race, we're not based on religion, we're based on some ideas. Democracy, one person, one vote. Those ideas are being tested right now. So don't be discouraged because the ideas are for the ages. The ideas will prevail, but more often than not, we are the ones who have to make sure that those ideas remain on the table.
You're right. You're right. And we have got to stay proactive. I mean, everyone isn't, like I said, isn't going to be you, isn't going to be Congressman Clyburn, even isn't going to be me to be a broadcaster or whatever. But we can do what we can do in our space, in our circle. You can advocate where you are. If that, as you said, if it's nothing but in your church or in your community or in your fraternity or sorority, we can do what we can do. And every little bit helps. If we can all do what we can do, then we can, create a ripple effect.
And to be honest with you, we are the majority. If you put together the people who believe in environmental protection, the people who believe in reproductive choice, the people who believe in civil rights, we outnumber the minority. We have to act like we are the majority.
Yeah.
They want to divide us. You don't like Mexicans and you don't like poor white people and you don't like this. We are the majority of Americans. We got to start acting like the majority and letting them know. When you go vote, take 2 people with you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way to end. We are the majority, and it's not as much as our color or our gender or anything. It's those people who want equal rights, who want fair treatment, who want, equity for everyone. And if we start thinking like that, you're absolutely right, Attorney Mathis, then because it's a mindset. It's definitely a mindset.
Building those bridges. Even when I spoke to the conservative congressman this morning, I did not get belligerent with him.
Right.
I was classmates with his daddy at Greenville High. I know you, boy. I know where you came from. Don't play with me.
Yeah.
That movie, Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah.
To a large extent, Black women are in the back now telling the country where to go.
Yes, you're right. Oh my God.
With Miss Daisy, and that makes people uncomfortable. But they'll get over it because this will be the best run country that ever was under the leadership that we will provide, because we love everybody.
Yes.
When Black women win, we all win, because we're gonna look out for
everybody.
All the children, all the poor people, all the disabled people. Our hearts will go out and protect everybody, even old white men.
Because that's what we've been doing.
That's what we've been doing.
That's what we've been doing. We're just going to do what we continue to do.
Those folk in Charleston at Mother Emanuel.
Yeah.
Go in that courtroom and say, "We forgive Dylan Roof."
Can you believe that? Yeah.
That's the real credit. That's what happens when you take communion every month. Forgive us all that is past and grant that we may ever have to serve and please thee. Yes. We believe that. And there's nothing wrong with believing it.
No, it's not. It's not. And it is challenging, and it can be tiring. I mean, good God Almighty, I was talking about this to someone else. You're frustrated, but you just trust God. You just trust God that you're in purpose, on purpose, for purpose in this time. And we just got to continue to strive on and just trust and believe. So thank you.
Tre Tailor, I'm going to steal that from you. In purpose, on purpose, with purpose. When you hear it, just act like you didn't hear it.
It's okay. Attorney Janice Mathis joined us today with the National Council of Negro Women. If you get a chance, if you're just joining us, please don't forget to hit the replay button, because she has dropped some major nuggets about voting rights, what is at stake, and what we can do. So please don't forget to hit replay and post and share. If you want more information about Attorney Mathis and the National Council of Negro Women, her information is on the screen. Thank you so very much, Attorney Mathis, for joining us today and for all of the information that you have shared. If there's anything else that an update or anything else we can know, please, you are more than welcome to join us at any time. You have an open invitation.
Thank you so much. The pleasure's been all mine.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So listen, if you have a story or initiative that could help someone cope, please email booking at copingwithtretailor.com. That's booking at copingwithtretailor.com. You can see that information on the screen. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithtretailor@gmail.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday. Also, Javis Tax Services, the Office of Business Opportunities, Palmetto Media Connections, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson. He's going to join us next Thursday with No Justice, No Peace. Palmetto Media Connections, the Comet Bus System, Black Expo, Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. And if you are having a challenge coping with COVID, please contact the folks at Agape Counseling and Training Services. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk with Ahmad Ward with the South Carolina Freedom Walk. He's got an amazing event coming up, and he's going to tell you all about it. That's tomorrow right here on Coping with Tre Tailor. As usual, I leave you with an inspirational reading. We've been reading from Conversations with God. Cheryl Mims Williams with Agape Counseling and Training Services wrote this amazing book, and it is based on scripture and some of her journal writings. This says, "No weapon formed against you." Good God Almighty. That's just like what Attorney Mathis was saying. "No weapon formed against you, my child, shall prosper. Hold fast and study my word, for it shall not be returned void. It shall accomplish all that I sent it to do. Trust me, my child, and rest in me. The enemy wanted to destroy you, but I would not allow it. He's distracted you and placed distractions in your life, but trust me, I will never leave or forsake you. You will be 10 times stronger before he attacks your body. All I need from you is a willing mind and a trusting heart. Remember, you are my child. I am your father. No wickedness shall come near you." That's some good words right there to encourage you. This is Conversations with God from Cheryl Mims Williams with Agape Counseling and Training Services. I'm Tre Tailor. Thank you again so much for joining us on Coping with Tre Tailor. Until the next time, I wish you peace and abundant blessings. Take care. Stay well. God bless. Get your vaccine. And please, you still need to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. We'll see you tomorrow.
Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, learning the way that we thrive all together. Coping, finding out what's real. Coping, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal. Coping with stress, coping with strife, bringing hope for success in improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive, ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do. 6 days to a better you. Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping. Success in improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive, ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do. 6 days to a better you. Coping, peace of mind to survive through whatever. Go.